You're listening to AM 1490 WWPR, Bradenton, Sarasota, Tampa Bay.
Hey out there. Happy Labor Day to everyone. I'm Dr. Cecilia Martin, and I'm the host of Team Leadership. Train, equip, empower, and mobilize leadership. I'm a best-selling author, international speaker, business owner, founder of a nonprofit, and your radio talk show host. Again, happy Labor Day out there. Did you know Labor Day is the unofficial end of hot dog season? Like, that's really a thing. And there's an actual National Hot Dog and Sausage Council. For real, I'm not making this stuff up. The council says that between Memorial Day and Labor Day, Americans will eat 7 billion hot dogs. Now, I don't know what you're eating out there, but for the record, Nathan's all beef colossal hot dogs are to die for. They really are the best. You don't need a reason to eat them, but you will need a hoagie bun. They are just that large and oh so delicious. Now, let's also clear up this business about wearing white after Labor Day. This tradition goes back to the late Victorian age, where it was a fashion faux pas to wear any white clothing after the summer officially ended on Labor Day. This tradition really isn't followed anymore because wearing white after Labor Day also indicated you were still in vacation mode at your summer cottage. I don't know about you, but I don't have a summer cottage yet. Yet being the key word, folks. So let's just jump in and drop the tradition with wearing white and wear white whenever we want to. Whether you're wearing white tomorrow or in the middle of purchasing a summer cottage, I hope you took some time to rest today or spend quality time with your family. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'm excited to have my first holiday guest. It's pretty cool to have someone join you live on a holiday. Oh, yeah. Joining me tonight is Dr. Meredith Davis, Ph.D. She is a dynamic, creative, solution-focused educator and now a consultant. She has more than 20 years of leadership success in higher education. Currently, the native Baltimorean is a consultant in the education practice at WittKieffer. Prior to joining the WittKiefer team, Dr. Meredith Davis was Associate Vice President for Student Engagement at Syracuse University. Before that, she was an Associate Dean of Students for Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Davis has held several past leadership roles. She worked in leadership at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. She was the director of Upward Bound program at Coppin State College and former director of the African American Cultural Center at Towson University. Truly at heart, Dr. Davis is a relationship builder with clients, candidates, or leaders across academia. Throughout her career, Dr. Meredith Davis has made it a point to support and lead initiatives that inspires others, moves institutions forward, and improve academia and society. Dr. Davis, thank you for joining me tonight. Hello. And no less on Labor Day.
I know, laboring on Labor Day.
I know, right? I'm like, this is what we do, okay? We just get the job done.
Yes. No.
Now, are you still in upstate New York?
Yes, it's considered Central New York, actually. I have been corrected about that. It is Central
Oh,
New York. And yes, I'm in Syracuse. I live in
oh,
downtown Syracuse. That's correct.
awesome. Now, do you have family there or any friends like family?
No, no, actually, I have a few friends here. Unfortunately, I started my job. I worked at Syracuse University, and I started a month before the pandemic. So I didn't really know anybody here. I, was isolated for like the first probably almost year, being here, having the pandemic and having to go through that experience as well. So it was just really a lot.
Wow, I can imagine.
Yeah.
My goodness. What did you do to get through the days? Did you have one particular sort of COVID routine that you stuck with?
Um,
For example, not to interrupt you, but for example, for me, I made sure I went outside to get at least a minimum of 30 minutes of sunlight each day.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
I
It wasn't any of that kind of situation. No,
okay.
it wasn't any. I was thinking more like mm, being half dressed most of the time, like
Okay.
50% of the week being, fully dressed, and the rest,
Right.
being dressed from the top up,
Yeah.
blazer, pajama bottoms. Yeah. So, when I got in my full, what I would call regalia, it was like
Uh-huh.
I felt like I was really, really working and doing it. But yeah, there weren't really a lot of routines. I did try to keep a routine, so I tried to stay awake, stay awake at a decent time, go to bed at a decent time, get up, and plus I still had to work. And we were actually under a lot of pressure and deadlines going
Mm-hmm.
into the pandemic because we had to figure out were students coming back, how were we going to make provisions for that. So it was just a lot. It was a
Mm-hmm.
lot. It was a lot.
It really was for a lot of folks, for all of us. And, that's one thing I champion about us, not just New Yorkers and Texans, because, we get through the roughest of times, but everyone in the United States, I mean, we just bounce back no matter what. And so, and I know there'll never be a new normal, but I think we'll approach it a little differently next time. Hopefully,
Yeah.
anyway, we'll be a
Yeah.
little bit more prepared. Now, I've known you for a number of years, and you've known to be a bit of an advocate. And I believe the bulk of your career has focused on improving culture and climate in institutions. Why is that so important to you?
So, I think the bottom line is, now we are in this post Brown v. Board world, and the United States is offering and making available higher education for those who have the ability to get it and pursue it. I just think it's important that the institution should be indicative and representative of the demographics that they serve. And
Sure.
so, how do you invite? It's like inviting someone to your house with no furniture,
Mm. Now
or
yeah.
you invite them to dinner, but you don't know what they like to eat.
Mm.
It's just like you're setting yourself up to fail, and you're definitely setting your visitor, your guest, the person that you're entreating, to fail. And so, and the other reality is there are lots of different ways to do things. And so why not have a multiplicity of beliefs and opinions and ways to process information,
Mm-hmm.
as this world is getting smaller and smaller. And so I just always believe, racism is expensive.
Mm.
It's cheaper to just be nice. It's cheaper to be inclusive. It's cheaper to not be a sexist and have to deal with Title IX. It's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that come into the actual cost of what it means, the effort and the energy to exclude people. It's far more energy exhausted in excluding people than it is including
Mm.
people.
That's a very good point. It's just cheaper to be nice.
Yeah, it is. Just be
Yeah.
nice. It don't
Yeah.
cost nothing.
Yeah. Not a thing.
Not even nice. Let's just all be human beings. Let's all treat each
Hmm.
other like we all, have come from a womb, or we all, have feelings. You know what I mean?
We're not robots.
Yes, yes, we
Not
all are
yet anyway.
bleeding red blood right now, but I'm
Mhm.
sure there'll be a trend where people can have pink blood and green blood, and, their veins could be yellow and neon. I'm sure they'll figure some ways out of playing with that aesthetic as well. But until then, can we just all just treat each other with some decency.
Right. I remember in some of our conversations when you were working at higher ed, I want to get to what you're doing now, but
Mhm.
when you were working in higher ed, you did say that you felt like working at a university was a calling. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I mean, and I think, and even when I was thinking about this today, I was like, actually, I need to rescind that. I need to say that being an educator is a calling, and my vocation was higher ed.
I like
And
that.
so my calling has always been around justice. My call has always been around fairness. And how does one get to those understandings of justice and fairness and equality without education? And so for me, the vocation is what I decided to specialize in. So if someone's, an MD, they may
Mm.
be in internal medicine or they may be in oncology. And so I look at higher ed as just another branch of education that I chose. And I've had other positions that were, education focused, like the Civil Rights Museum. And so I think I need to reframe that because I'll forever
Mm.
be an educator.
I totally get it because I feel the same way. I no longer teach at a college or in a high school classroom, but I do feel I am called to the field of education for life.
Hmm.
And that may look several different ways depending
Hmm.
on where I am in my career or my trajectory of where I'm trying to go. So yeah, I totally get that.
I mean, I can help you figure out what it looked like when you were at Patterson High School. You know what I mean? Like from Patterson High School, wearing your boots and your jeans and, having to, buy supplies and keep
Mm-hmm.
food and snack and Scooby snacks somewhere. So like imagine that and now you're in a totally different like landscape. It's not even close to what it is, but at the core, you're still an educator.
Yes, absolutely. And I do remember those Patterson High School days. They gave me combat pay for taking that job. I was
Oh
a
my
new
goodness.
teacher. I call it combat pay. They called it a signing bonus,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And air
yeah.
quotes for real. And but yeah, it was an interesting setup that I won't get into, but
Yes.
it was definitely working inner city kids and troubled youth, and that's my passion anyway. But you're right in the sense that at the time I may not have seen it, but that was not my end destination, so to speak.
Hmm.
And I know you've had some pivotal moments. I've had several of them over the years, but you had a true pivotal moment or an incident where you knew you would leave higher ed. Talk to me about that. Because that was huge for you because you had been in higher ed for a number of years.
Yes, yes. I had my first higher ed job when I was 24.
Mm.
And now I am 4 scores and 7 years old. So, so it's been a while. I've been in higher education for quite a while now. And so I would say it wasn't necessarily one particular moment, or maybe it was a moment versus the incident. I'm not trying to be, how I am. I can't help it. I like
Mm-hmm.
to play with words. But,
Yeah.
I think it was a moment in my life where I was like, this is no longer working. Like the joy I had was gone. And it
Mm.
was gone because of a number of reasons. I was older. I was at a different level of the organizational chain, and I think people really just don't understand how different it is when you don't have that constant student interaction.
Yes.
It's not, I mean, there's a part of you that just feels like you're missing because that's the joy, being able to spend time with students, being able to talk to them, having time
Mm-hmm.
to meet with their parents, and not always crisis and not always reactionary, but just building relationships with young people who desire to grow and develop, and they look to you for that. And I was no longer that person. I was the system. I was the man. Now I was the
Yep.
one, I was the engine. I'm the enemy. And it was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like, and I get how it happens. I understand how it happens because there is a disconnect. And I completely get it. But I just think that generationally, I was not prepared to um, engage with students in the same way. And I just felt like it was time for me to do something different. And so I
Sure.
started to think about what that would look like. And, unlike you, I'm nobody's entrepreneur. I enjoy a check every 2 weeks with the same signature on it. I like to know what goes in my account all the time. You can always
Yeah,
give
because
me more, but you
it's
don't ever give me
unpredictable.
less. Yeah, so it's like,
Unpredictable income, honey.
yeah, I mean, everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Let's just be clear on that one. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Somebody has to work for somebody, and it's okay. And I have no problem being that individual. So, so that was out. And then it was just like, well, do I completely leave the industry altogether? So I started applying to like the NFL, Amazon, because I have DEI experience. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, and then to me, it felt like, because I was located in higher education, there wasn't any place really I couldn't work, because that demographic is like a major consumer in this world. So somebody that has an inside scoop to the mind of an 18-year-old, like,
Yes.
that is better than having a PhD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, I just knew I could figure it out, but nothing resonated. And I was a finalist at a job, and I was working through a search firm, and I had a very good experience with that. And I just happened to ask the person. I was like, would you all be hiring? They were like, are you serious? I'm like, are you serious? They're like, well, you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. You serious? I mean, that went for a long time, like that kind of conversation, because it was like I couldn't believe that I could make the leap just like that,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't a leap just like that. I had been thinking about it for years. I had been thinking, like, when I was 47, and I said when I turned 50, I wanted to pivot. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I needed a pivot. And I knew that the first pivot that I had to do in order to know that I was serious about making a change in my life was to change my job, because I could do my job in my sleep.
Mm. Yeah, but there are a lot of people who want to take the plunge. And first of all, I know that was a huge leap for you because I know you personally. Did you consult with anyone before you walked away from that
Yeah, yeah,
career?
yeah, yeah. I did actually.
Okay.
I actually spoke to at that time the president of the college,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Marjorie Haas, one of my mentors. I spoke with her. I spoke with some of my closest friends. I tried to speak to people who are like-minded, and
Yes.
I say that because, you know, depending on who I talk to, like, if you didn't really know who I was, your response would be like, "Oh, you could do this and make all this money. You could do this and live here." And anybody that knows me knows I'm not motivated by money. Like, there is
Mm-hmm.
no, that doesn't motivate me to do anything. And so I had to really think about what I wanted to do next. And so I consulted with people. I also, took time to ask people, especially my previous supervisors, questions about my leadership style, my work style, like, who am I? I just needed to know. Even, you know what, as a matter of fact, even for my 50th birthday, I had a certain number of people write me letters about who I am to them, because I
That's a
needed
good
to
idea.
see who I was. I wanted to see who I was, because when you live in your own skin,
Mm-hmm.
you know all your dirt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? In a way that other people don't know you. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's sometimes hard to really know who you are,
Right.
because of all the trauma and all the things that you've dealt with. And so it was like, I just wanted to see myself in other people's eyes. So a couple of my best friends did letters. One of my best friends, Beretta, she did my picture book for me. It was
Yeah,
amazing. A photo
Beretta.
book. Yeah, it was a photo book, like a photo album she got produced for us, just pictures of us since we were like 13 years old. And so I consulted with people who knew who I was, and not so they could agree with me, but just so we're on the same trajectory. Nobody's gonna have me out here trying to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
at Jessup prison. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
just
exactly. Right,
just
right.
nobody's gonna try and talk me into something. Join the circus. Just wasn't interested.
Why
So,
not? It's the greatest show on earth. Okay.
um,
Okay. My joke fell.
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna stop trying to do
because
jokes.
I was like, it's the greatest show. It's the greatest horror show on earth. something goes wrong.
It's true.
So, but yeah, so I did consult with people, and it was a process. It took several years.
Yeah. And, I'm glad you mentioned that money can't be a motivator because, I personally walked away at least from three different six-figure jobs because I wasn't happy. And if you're not happy and feeling some type of self-confidence in what you're doing or some type of peace in what you're doing or something where it doesn't feel like work, you trust me, the money won't keep you because you'll feel like you're selling your soul at some point.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
essentially, what's left of it.
Yeah, exactly. What's left of it. I remember, I don't know if you remember, I know you've had a BlackBerry at some point.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
even know if
no, you
they
know what? I never had a BlackBerry.
really.
Nope, I never had a BlackBerry.
I'm surprised. I don't
No,
even know.
higher ed. No, you had to be a big wig to have a BlackBerry. Higher ed, no.
Okay,
Now, if
okay.
you work for
Well,
the government, now, see, working for the federal government, I think people had Blackberries.
yeah, I had a BlackBerry, and I remember having anxiety every time I saw that red flashing light. I don't even know if they still use them anymore, but it got to a point. I know that some companies started writing policies about not sending emails after a certain time of day or on the weekend because it really caused a certain level of anxiety. But I was working a six-figure job, and if someone emailed me, I had to
Yep.
respond.
Yeah.
I had to respond. That was just, the end of the story. But yeah, I'm so glad that you're sharing your own personal experience because it really resonates with not just people who are in higher ed or those who are, like you said, on a salary job with a predictable income, but with anybody who's making the plunge, who's jumping ship and want to consider a different course, even though you've been in a certain path for a
Mhm.
long time. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about walking away from a dead end job, a six-figure job, or the only career that they've ever known?
Yeah. So let me, first, and I must put this in context,
Mm-hmm.
because, um, you know, my father had less than an eighth grade education,
Mm-hmm.
and he was an LPN. So he couldn't walk away from a job. You know what I mean? I sit in a very privileged location, socioeconomically and educationally. I
Mm-hmm.
sit, and I'm clear on that one. And so I think, you have to be in a position to make that decision. And while, I mean, there are people who, make that leap of faith. A single mother with three kids will make that leap of faith. I just wanted to say that because I don't want anyone to think that I'm not clear that I had the ability to be able to spend 3 years, still collect a check with health
Right.
insurance and retirement. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yes.
make a decision. And I wasn't being harassed and I wasn't, being undermined. People knew I was interested in leaving higher ed and they were very supportive of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I say all of that because you have to know what ground you're working on. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
can't, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're in a toxic workspace, it's going to probably be more difficult for you to be able to do that because you're just trying to survive every day at work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have a heavy labor job, it's difficult. So I think you have to know what the cost. I mean, really weigh the cost of what it means to leave. And I like I said, I pivoted industries. I didn't leave who I was. I'm still an educator. And so I think that's another
Mm-hmm.
thing that's really important, because I'm not trying to be funny, but like it's just funny to me when, you know, and this is gonna be mean what I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna say it. Like you just this is your first job out of college and you're already burnt out.
Right.
Baby, have a seat. Please take some vitamins.
Right.
Go to bed and drink water. Like this is not the same thing. You know what I mean? This
Right.
is
Right.
not the same. This is not the same thing. And
Yeah.
just because you're dissatisfied at a job does not mean you need to leave an industry or even quit your job because unless it's yours and even when it is yours, there'll be dissatisfaction. And what I was experiencing was an existential crisis. It was not um, let me just jump from one thing to another.
Sure.
It really was a pivoting of who I was as an individual embarking on another chapter of who I am. And
Sure.
so, especially if your job is very much tied to who you are as an individual, those are the kinds of things you need to think about. You need to ask people, how are you as a leader, and how are you as someone that they supervise? That's important too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I think it's important to support people that you supervise, and you shouldn't be domineering over them, and they can give you valuable feedback. So I think it's important to get a lot of feedback from different areas. Think about it financially. Um, are you able to? Do you have to work while you're looking? Are you able to,
Mm-hmm.
make a leap, and then you don't work, but you've saved up for several months or so? I mean, I just think it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different things and lots of different ways to do it. But I would say that make sure you're not job hunting. I mean, hopping, not hunting, but make sure you're not job hopping, because it's not about that. Sometimes the things we're running from are within. And so you're not
Yeah.
going to find satisfaction in a new industry if you still got to wake up the same person.
Oh my gosh. I told somebody that because now, so I too want to bring some context. The jobs that I left, well, each job that I left, I would say every job that I left, I felt like it was time.
Hmm.
And the next job I went to was a natural progression. And like you said, each time there was an exit strategy. And sometimes being unhappy doesn't mean that you don't like your environment. It means that for me, it often meant that I had finished my purpose there.
Hmm.
And so I think that's where people fall prey to, is that they don't realize that some jobs you're not meant to stay on for a lifetime,
Yeah.
especially if you're in leadership.
Yeah.
Many times you're there to leave your professional DNA, to build the capacity of those around you, and perhaps move on, perhaps. But for some, they are meant to stay because they are part of the infrastructure at that point, or really part of the betterment of that company for the long term. So, like you said, you really do have to put it in context. And what I hear you saying is that people need to create an exit strategy or a
Yeah.
runway. You
Yeah.
don't just, yeah, you don't just jump without a parachute.
Now, let's just be clear. There have been many a day when I walked in and I was like, I know I got these nickels and dimes in the bank, but if they come at me, like, I mean, I've had those moments,
Yeah.
but you ultimately have to, you want to set yourself up for success and not failure. So,
Hmm.
so part of it is like knowing where you are professionally. And so I want to go back to what I said about the young person being burnt out. Perhaps you are exhausted, but maybe it's because you haven't transitioned into a different way of seeing how you have to get up
Hmm.
every morning, with the routines you have to do. Maybe the time you eat dinner is too late. I mean, there are lots of factors into that. So, like, I
Hmm.
had to also say, is it just that I'm not happy here? Am I not happy in higher ed? Am I just not happy?
Hmm. Right. Just not happy.
Just not
Right.
happy. And
Right.
there have been times I'm just not happy. So it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change that. The scenery won't, a nice vacation won't. None of those things will change it. And so you just have to know who you are and where you are.
Hmm.
Otherwise you're just I think we do a lot of things without being reflective, and probably I'm
Hmm.
probably overly reflective, but I'd rather be overly reflective than callous and not reflect, because that's the
Yeah.
fun part.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like you said, and I told someone very close to me, you're still taking yourself to your next gig. So if you
Yeah.
don't deal with yourself and address what's going on in the inside, or like you said, what is it that you want, or are you just not happy at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a job won't fix that no more than a relationship or more money. You'll have to deal with the root cause of your unhappiness. So
And you have to, and the other thing is that at this juncture, I mean, it's unfortunate. I'm just realizing it now to the magnitude, but I'm like, mm, yeah, I don't owe you a whole bunch of explanations.
hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't, excuse me. You
Yeah.
know, like, and it's interesting because when I left the industry, when I left higher ed and went into consulting, it was almost like starting all over. And my colleagues kept saying, you're not starting over, you're starting new, because you're not starting over
Mm-hmm.
because you have 20 years experience. That's why you're here. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be so squeamish about making decisions, or, if you don't know something, ask. So it's been a wonderful experience because everybody is helpful.
Yeah.
Everybody is helpful. Everybody wants everybody to succeed. Nobody's worrying about trying to sabotage. I just don't have those kinds of things in my head anymore. And it's like, so I left at a particular level, and so I'm at another level. And while I'm learning a lot of things, there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm not new to.
It's a great thing to be in a good working environment where everyone
Hmm.
wants you to succeed. Everyone's on the same team working together. Where did you land? What are you doing now?
So I'm currently at WittKieffer, and WittKieffer is a global executive search firm, and a leader advisory firm. So we have an array of clients. We have an array of practices from from education to life sciences, commercial healthcare, not-for-profit, legal and compliance. We have an array of practices. And our clients are institutions or organizations, and we help them to find the most successful future leader for their organization. And we also
Mm,
provide advisement and guidance in transitioning of leadership to diversity, equity, and inclusion, trainings and efforts. So we do an array of things, and so
mhm,
it's kind of exciting to be on this side. I feel
mhm.
like a matchmaker, which is just a kind of corny, but I like, I kind of see it like you're a matchmaker. You're really trying to make something work for someone, and you're trying to connect these candidates that are, hardworking, highly intelligent individuals trying to, take their next leap in their professional career. And so you're just trying to, pair people up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, well, I'm calling you a headhunter. Is
Okay, so that's a derogatory term.
really?
I mean, think about it. Let's think about it, Cecilia.
Oh my gosh, come on, Meredith. Oh, well, school me because all I've ever known is for um folks that
No, no,
do
no. I'm just saying the term headhunter itself. Like, what does that mean?
an executive headhunter.
No, headhunter. When you call someone a headhunter, I mean, it came from a history of people actually hunting people's heads.
Yeah,
So that's why it's considered
yeah.
derogatory.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so it's executive search, because the other thing is
Mm.
it's not as much hunting anymore anyway, because
Listen, listen,
huh?
listen. People don't know you're a former Black Panther, so you know.
I look,
I'm
I
talking
ain't
to the
former. I'm not
biggest,
former. Let's say that I'm not former, honey.
not
We can get this
former.
cracking. We can get it cracking. But no, I'm just saying. So what I'm
No,
saying
no,
is,
but for real, school us. No, go ahead, because I know a lot
no,
of people use that term.
it's yeah, and because I mean, once again, like the world is getting larger, but it's also getting smaller, and so
Mhm.
just like when we everything is man at the end, as if that is the only gendered, sex identified individual that has the capacity to do something, you know what I mean? Like a policeman, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like the same thing. I mean, just when the world is changing, other people's stories come in, and you don't know where you got your story from. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So we get our
Mhm.
story from somebody that has a traumatic history, and so they hear those terms, and that's part of the belonging piece. But anyway, I had to say, I couldn't. But anyway,
What's the
so
proper term then?
executive search.
Executive.
I'm an executive search consultant.
Okay, I like it. I
And it's
love
a firm, yeah, and it's a
it. Hmm.
firm. And so so I work with the candidates. I also work with the institution as far as helping them think about what it is they're looking for in their next candidate. And it's executive leadership, so it's not just we need somebody to come in and run a cash register. You know what I mean? So it's a process. So it's like thinking about how they fit in with the other leadership team, thinking about the goal and the institutional mission and vision, and how this individual, resonates and can connect with students and connect with, their direct reports and be supportive supervisor. It's really interesting because it really is
Mm-hmm.
a process.
Mm-hmm. So does that mean that you and your firm are primarily looking for only executive positions to fill? So for an employer, so you're looking for the C-suite members, the chief executive officer, the COO, the CFO.
Yes, yes.
Explain that a little bit for the listeners.
Yeah, so it's so, and there are various levels. I mean, we do searches for deans, but it's usually executive. It's that head of that particular organization's leadership. Those key people who do the day-to-day envisioning and operating of a particular organization. So, a nonprofit, it could be an executive director. So it's not necessarily title driven. It's driven by the level of responsibility and the scope and scale of responsibility the individual has that would determine them being executive. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do libraries. I think we've done museums before. We do hospital searches, CMOs, chief medical officers, chief technology officers. So it's an array of different positions and practices that we're in. I'm in education, and my focus is higher education. So our clients are colleges and universities.
Okay. So what
Hmm.
type of skills do you look for when filling a lead role like that? I mean, do you ever work with the people that you are recruiting, or you kind of work with the job description and mainly let the employer lead for what they want? Or again, what type of skills do you necessarily have to have outside of the job description do you look for?
Yeah, so I would say, anyone that's interested in any type of leadership position needs to consider where they're located and all of the responsibilities they have, who reports to them, and how they support everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who I do believe there are in this world, followers with leader titles. You know what I mean? But a true leader is someone who wants to see, their staff develop. Are they aware of the trends in their industry? In this particular case, higher education. I mean, do you know what's going on in higher ed? Are you following some best practices? Do you have the ability to collaborate with other people? Are you in your own silo, or are you someone who likes to work collaboratively and someone who likes to, stretch what it means to get something done on campus or to engage with a multitude of constituents? I think it just really depends on what the position is, but these are people who are seasoned and have had,
Mm-hmm.
a substantial amount of time for the most part in the industry, and so it really is more matchmaking, in that sense, because it's not just about the skill,
Mm-hmm.
because there are lots of people with the skills, but the skill and the connection that the person can make with the institution, that's really important, and not just the person they report to, but the entire institution. So you need to know, be able to have a certain kind of relationship with students and with, community leaders and, with your peers. And so it really does take somebody who is very self-evolved and self-aware a lot of times to have these kinds of roles. Sometimes it doesn't. but but that's what I would be looking for. I wouldn't just be
Mm-hmm.
looking for the skills. I would be looking for how you use your skills
Mm-hmm.
and how do you utilize your skills to create and produce. I would also
Mm-hmm.
say that a leader is someone who has receipts.
That's
A
good.
leader has receipts.
That's good.
I'm not going to tell you about something and how to do it if I haven't done it myself. I'm
Wow,
not going to tell
that's
you, you know what
good.
I mean? Um, and you also have to know how to follow, and you have to know how to work with other people, and how to be humble, and to communicate effectively, and to be emotionally intelligent. Like, there are a lot of things that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a good candidate that bombed the interview, or is that even possible at that level where, especially for the
Uh,
executive searches, I know they're like for certain jobs, I know I did like 3 or 4 different interviews.
mhm.
And at some point I felt like I bombed one of them, just me personally. Cause like you said, we
Yeah.
have a good, good way of, pointing out our own faults. But is it possible to look good on paper, have receipts, but bomb the interviews?
Yes, and I think that's what's so scary nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's scary because, you know, I'm trying so hard to just keep Huey Newton inside.
Come on, we got our big girl.
No, I mean, I think part of it is because we are no longer operating like a community. Like
Mm-hmm,
people just aren't in commune with other people. So
mm-hmm,
you have no freaking social skills. You have no social
mm-hmm.
skills. You don't know how to engage. You don't know how to share. You don't know how to have an opinion. And it's okay that somebody disagrees with you. I mean, the fragility is just, it is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So yes, you can have a wonderful resume and you show up and it's like,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah,
because I
it's
remember.
going to be worse after COVID too because people were so isolated.
Well, it is,
Yeah,
and grown folk. I mean, not grown folk, like real
yeah,
grown folk.
yeah.
So it's a little frightening that people think all you need are the skills to be successful, and it's
Mm-hmm,
not. It's a hustle. Like you have to understand and know how to work with people. You have
mm-hmm,
to be cognizant of what's going on around you. If you're not, you're no good to anybody. Like
mm.
nobody's hiring people anymore who are just good at what they do. If
Right.
all you
Yeah.
can do is what your job description says, you
Mm-hmm.
are of no use to an organization in the 21st century.
Right.
And you can take that one to the bank.
Preach
Because no
it.
one wants to hire somebody and all you're good, then you're no good to the whole if
Mm-hmm.
all you can do is focus on your some part. You're no good to anybody else. And so part of it is getting leaders, especially individuals that come from certain backgrounds that may have come from, places of privilege that feel like, all I need to say is I went to Wharton. That's not enough.
Right.
That is not
Exactly.
enough. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not enough. Like that just doesn't cut. Okay, but can you talk to somebody?
Right.
Do you know how to answer a question effectively? Can you represent the organization? Do you embody the vision and the mission and the
Mm.
goals? Like if you can't do that, you might as well start your own stuff and be your own boss because nobody else is going to want to put up with you because
Right.
it's so complex now that everybody needs to know what everybody is doing or at
Mm-hmm.
least care enough to ask.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know so part of it, the struggle is just like being someplace in an environment where it also helps to develop you in that way because if you don't get those skills, like when I was in college, I mean, I had no choice. You know what I mean? You'd had to get along with people. It
Right.
wasn't no, she looked at me a certain way and she couldn't stay in my room anymore. It was like, okay, well, you going to a hotel? Like what?
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, so like this sense of belonging is so different now, and all of what we think we're depositing is so much different that like people just show up to work and think they're supposed, I got a bachelor's degree, so I should be making 6 figures and I should be running something. No, you barely ran bathwater last year. So, no, that's not how it works. You have to build your skill sets.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I'm sorry I'm cracking up over here, trying to keep my composure.
I'm sorry, but I'm
You,
just
no,
saying.
no, I know. No, you're talking truth because, you know, it's the same way, not just if you're in corporate, but even those who are entrepreneurs, they are thinking that they can just step out And like you said, because I went to this school or because I had this degree, and it really isn't that easy. People see team now, but I've been doing team on the side
Since
since
1944,
yeah.
when cabbage was 20 cents a head. Yes.
Yeah, you're not gonna let me get that. No. Exactly, but that's the whole point. People don't see how the sausage is made, and
Yeah.
it takes work and consistency, and
See,
like you
I don't
said,
like the
repetition.
sausage is made. I don't like that analogy.
Come on, it's the end of the
I know, I know,
of hot dogs.
I know, I know. And you said the hot dog, I was like, and why would people want to wear white in the summer if they eating them hot dogs? Ketchup, mustard all over their clothes. I was like, just take it off. Just take it off. Anyway, okay,
Guys,
we're
tears
back.
running down my face.
We are back.
Oh.
We are back. We are back. We are back.
Okay, all right. Let me pull it together.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right in the sense that people have to come with some substance now and be effective communicators. And a lot of the youth today are missing what's called soft skills, where they don't know how to interact with each other because they spend so much time online and on social media. And it's really kind of scary when you think about it. I don't even know how can we help not just young people but adults alike who may just be gun shy too when it comes to doing an interview. Are there any tips that you can give them to properly prepare so that they can feel confident when they speak and when they answer questions, especially if you're looking for an executive job, but for any job you
For
need to
any job, yeah. I
yeah.
mean, so I would say first, know why you want the position,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's just for money, then lie. Okay, that's not a good enough reason. Okay,
Right.
that's not a good enough reason. Or, well, my girlfriend had the job and it looked like fun, so I wanted to try. No, 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 no. So when they ask you why, they're not, it's like more of a philosophical why. It's not like a direct why, like you broke and you need a job. It's like a philosophical why. What is it about this job? What is it about this position? What is it about this industry that is drawing you to this position? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And let me just say, that's going to probably start happening at McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's making $18 an hour. Somebody needs to be able to answer besides saying, because I like French fries. You know what I mean? So it's like we're getting into this space, where, should know why they want a job. I mean, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I'm just joking and stuff. But the bottom line is, the first question they usually ask is why? Why are you interested in
Mm-hmm.
this position? So you should have a reason. Why are you? Think about it. I mean, and you can be honest. I'm not saying because what has happened, the pandemic has caused actually people to be more honest, because there are more people that say now, well, I reevaluated my life. I want to be closer to my family.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking at this job right here.
True.
And I got the skill set. So, okay, let's keep it, and that's the other thing, like there's a disconnect of like this old and this new way of seeing things. So sometimes you can have somebody in a room who's like, what do you mean? Because your mom is sick? Like, that's not a professional answer. It sure enough is.
Mm-hmm.
In the 21st century, it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But just have a motivation and a reason why. The other thing I would say is whatever it is you're doing, be able to give examples of success. Be able to have a proven record of how you've done this work. If someone says, oh, you said you've done this work before. Can you give us examples of how you've been successful? Make sure that you're tied directly to that example, not just your team, but something that you actually helped to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Something that happened, before you got there. That's not necessarily equating to your proven track
Mm-hmm.
record. Think about what you have done and how you've been successful. And make sure you also, and this is for those who, at the executive level, have some good, thoughtful, substantive questions to ask
Mm-hmm.
to ask someone. An interview is just that. I mean, it's a conversation, and both parties have a vested interest in getting it right. So I know, that people feel like a candidate can tank, but an employer can tank too.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So,
May not be a good fit.
yeah, and
So
if
ask the
yeah,
questions.
exactly. And putting that kind of effort and energy into a craft and a profession, you want to go someplace where you're going to be valued. You want to go someplace that aligns with you with what you believe. You want to go someplace that's supportive and wants to grow and develop you. So this is a two-way street now, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's important to be able to have some thoughtful questions and do your research on the organization, and not necessarily like stalk the internet and get everybody's name and then ask about their kids and their dog. And I'm not saying that kind of, but get a sense of what is happening at the institution, some of the current trends, some of the success
Mm-hmm.
stories, the milestones, know some of those things in an organization, and be able to speak to it directly.
This is so helpful. And there's one thing that you said that I want to emphasize, especially for my military veterans, is that we were so conditioned to say we, even if it was just me, myself, and I.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go on a job interview, they may have been the only person that led that project or,
Mm-hmm.
drove the data forward or increased the clientele, but they will say we
Mm-hmm.
because it's an inclusive word of you never operate alone in a military unit. So for my military vets out there, when you're interviewing, take the word we out of your vocabulary and tell them what you did. It's okay, you know. But we see that a lot. It is really very interesting. Just those little things can make an employer think that you didn't really lead the project, that you were working in connection with someone, and you may have a staff and all of that, but in an interview, it's the time to toot your own horn, isn't it?
Yeah. And to know when to, because
Yeah.
sometimes it isn't always appropriate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, if it's about, I would say this is what I would say. If you're going to use then focus on yourself. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say, I invested in some professional development opportunities and attended some
Mm-hmm.
conferences. I took a seminar and got a certification in something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's very different than I put together a strategic plan. No, there's no I putting together a strategic plan. There's a we.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So just
That's
knowing
true.
when to use I and when to use we, because there
Mhm.
are times that you don't want to look like you're narcissistic,
True. True. True.
so but there you need to be able to speak to your strengths, but that's more of the individual. How has this made you grow as a person? How has
Mm-hmm.
this made you develop? And
Mm-hmm.
then the we is how we had a collective result.
Right.
How was the progress made for the organization? That's the best time to use we.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you ever had an interview where there was just TMI? Because, like you said, the old school way of prepping for an interview is different now because people have the internet and they are looking up their dog's name and their children, and it's
Yeah,
a little creepy.
yeah,
So,
so it's really inappropriate. And so
mhm,
let me say why it's inappropriate. So unless you're just doing research about an organization, that's one thing. Like whatever, if you go to if you go to the website, like if you go to WittKiefer website, you would see the practices, the services. If you can't don't look for WittKiefer on somebody else's website and then take that as fact. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same
mhm,
thing for individuals. Don't
mhm,
go to somebody's Facebook page, or don't go to somebody's Google, or don't Instagram is not a site. It's not a reference. It's not a citation. Okay. It's you know what I mean? Google is, so it's like the research piece is to know more about the organization, and I would and you need to be careful about that as well, because people don't update their websites as often.
mhm,
But
mhm.
at least if you find it on the website, that's better than doing a Google search on somebody and then seeing things that really have nothing to do with the person's position, what they do, their career, and then start making decisions and judgments based off of that.
That's good.
But we encourage, we try and encourage people to not do, don't do all this. Not necessary. That's not necessary. Don't Google me. I mean, you can if you want, but
yeah, you're Googleable.
But who knows what's going to pop up,
right?
And guess what? It's not always true on the internet. Can you believe
That's
that?
True. Right, exactly.
Oh my God, did you know that?
I know people take Google as the God of all knowing. It's like, wait, what? It's so true because there's so many false narratives and there's so much propaganda and just untrue stuff about folks online.
Yeah.
Poor Betty White, before she passed, they had her died off.
I know.
Every other month. Will Smith too, like other people. So you can't even, then they started doing it to regular old folks. It's like, good Lord, So yeah, you can't, that is not a reference.
Yeah.
That is not a reference. It's not a good reference. Well, how can companies reach out to you if they have executive positions to fill?
My email address is mdavis at WittKiefer, WittKiefer.com.
One more time for them, please.
Sure. mdavis at WittKiefer, WittKiefer.com.
Great. Oh my gosh. You have been, as usual, such a joy and entertainment. I'm glad I made it through the interview without, because
I can't help it.
You should do stand-up comedy. You're doing it.
That's on my list. That's my bucket list.
All right, now I'll come to your shows.
I just want to write comedy. I want to write it. I don't want to be on stage. I don't want nobody looking.
Okay.
I just want to write it.
I think you could, believe it or not. People they have writers for their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, did you go see? We only have a few minutes left, but did you go see any good movies yesterday? Because me, my mom, and my daughter, we hopped. We saw Spider-Man: No Way From Home, then went right into Top Gun: Maverick, and then saw The Beast.
No, ma'am. I haven't been to a movie theater since 1935. I can't. The COVID, I just.
Come on.
Somebody that laughing. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, there's nothing's funny, miss. Been too close. Back it up.
I will be honest. I was, somebody I know over at the radio station, they saw Where the Crawdads Sing. See, I should have seen that because I actually have the book.
See, I just, I want to go, what I want to go see? Honk for Jesus. That's what I want to go see.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Let me tell you this. That movie, we should come back and talk about it. Now, you don't have to go to the movie theater to see that.
I know, but I kind of want to just see it in the theater because it looks like something you need to see in the theater. Like, I want to see Top Gun. I just
Top Gun, you have to see on the big screen. Come on, the thrill. Like, my mom and my daughter was in there reeling back and forth. I mean, it is just, Tom Cruise did the doggone thing. You have to see that on the big screen.
Okay.
Honk for Jesus. You may want to see it home so you can pause and laugh and just be like, oh my gosh, that is a conversation piece. Oh, they're bringing my music on.
I know. I feel like I'm in the Grammys. Thank you, Mama. I love you.
I know. We got to wrap it up. Okay. Watch Honk for Jesus for free on Peacock. If you have Peacock, if not, go to the big screen and see it. I hate you missed it for $3, but it's a conversation piece that Christian folks gonna be talking about for a long time.
Oh wow! Okay.
All right, Miss Davis, Dr. Meredith Davis, MD. I'm sorry, PhD. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this 1 hour of power, and as always, thank you for being a team player.
Thank you.
All right, we heading out.